We're here in conversation today with Mr. Vikram Kamat, who many of you will know as a successful entrepreneur, hotelier, restaurateur, and now successful author. Author of 8 books, in fact, on a very difficult subject for many of us, sales. And today we're here to talk about his flagship book, Sales Magic. So Vikram, a lot of people know you as a successful businessman, hotelier, restaurateur with brands such as Vitz Hotels and Kamat restaurants. But it probably comes as a surprise to know that you've also written a book, and that too, a book about selling. So what really got you writing?
Well, actually, I got into sales. My first job was in sales at the age of 15. And at that time, I sold my socks off. I did all the good things that a sales guy does. I also did all the bad things that a sales guy does, right from faking appointments to getting up late and taking my first appointment after lunch. And so I did all of that, and that's how I really experienced the good side and all the bad side of sales. And being in the hotel business, we used to selling to B2B, B2C, travel agents. And come 2008, when the market was very slow, very tough for hotels, is when the passion for sales reignited, especially when I was trying to hire one really good salesperson from one of our competing hotels. And the way he interacted with me and what he told me made me realize sales is the edge that we need. And that's when I started roaming around with many of the top salespeople. What I saw from them and what I learned from them made me realize that I need to go out with other industry top salespeople, because if I could get that edge of what other industries are doing into our business, then I'd obviously have the edge. And then I started calling up all my friends and going out with their salespeople, and Sales Magic is really about that journey and what I learned on that journey with all these salespeople.
Because it's a science, really, isn't it? And business is all about sales and getting the money in. So it really applies to business as a whole, and it's really about selling anything.
Absolutely, because as I said, it's a culmination of all the experiences of all the different businesses that I've experienced. And if you were to go with these top salespeople and ask them what they're doing differently, they could not tell you. So Sales Magic is really about all of these different businesses and what they salespeople do differently. And if you were to ask these salespeople what they do differently compared to others, they wouldn't know. Some of them, I would dare to say all of them, don't know what they do differently. And so it was about observing each one of them and seeing what they're doing. And that's the techniques that I got so much in love with. And the basic principle is how to get people to buy rather than be sold, because people want to buy and not be sold to.
I think for me, like reading the book, that was one thing that really hit home to me. The analogy that you drew on going and visiting the doctor and how that correlates to sales, and that just clicked something in my mind and changed the game for me. And the Socratic questioning. Just tell us a little bit about that.
I think this is an example that everybody relates to. Everybody's been to a doctor and seen how well they question, and you really open up very well to a doctor and openly tell them your pains and your problems, and that comes from good diagnosis. And good sales is all about good diagnosis, because then you can prescribe the ideal solution. So in sales, very often we think sales is about talking, whereas actually sales is about listening. So I think that's where doctors do such a fantastic job.
So the art of getting to a diagnosis through questioning is something you refer to in the book as Socratic questioning. Explain that in detail, because that is really fascinating.
Firstly, Socrates. The question is, who is Socrates? And Socrates was an ancient philosopher who lived more than 3,000 years ago. And he came up with something which seems quite obvious to us now, which is people don't like other people's ideas. Everybody loves their own ideas. And in selling, if you can get the other person to know that that's his idea or his solution, then they're so much more easily going to accept it. And that's what Socratic selling is all about. And we see it all the time in great movies, especially the lawyer films. Lawyers and doctors use a lot of Socratic questioning. And My Cousin Vinny is a great movie example of that, where the lawyer is about to lose the case, and he comes up with some intelligent questions where the witness or whoever blurts out the answers inadvertently, which is exactly what the lawyer needed to win the case. And that's what selling is about. Imagine if every prospect of yours told you how to sell to them rather than you having to force sell something to them, how easy would everybody's life be?
Oh, absolutely. It's it makes it much easier to sell to people. So with so much experience in sales, I'm sure you've seen some very interesting things that people have done or not done properly. I mean, give us some examples of the things that people have done in their sales journey.
You know, the smile on my face tells you what kind of stories I have. So I have tons and tons of stories. Let me tell you one, which will show something really to the point. So I'm tagging along with this sales guy, and we go to this pretty big company who sells, who has a committee you have to, present your idea to, and both of us go in and we see this committee sitting on the other side of the table. There are about 5 people, and the head of the committee is one, maybe 45, 50-year-old gentleman. And we enter and we sit down, and the guy is a little bit trying to show, he's a strong guy, and says, "Oh, so tell us, what can you do for us?" And this guy gives him a very interesting look, takes a long pause and says, "I don't know." And the whole committee is absolutely flabbergasted. What are they supposed to answer? And this old man, who perhaps his ego was a little hurt, says, "What do you mean you don't know? You've come for this meeting and you don't know. How are you going to help us if you don't know what you're going to do for us?" So this guy says, "Sir, how can I tell you the ideal solution if I don't know what your problems are?" They just felt so embarrassed about being so aggressive for no reason. And that's a really good technique. I've called it the beginner's technique, where you be a beginner and do a good diagnosis. And the sale became so easy. They just answered every question after that, and he didn't have to do much to sell. So I myself was not sure why he said "I don't know," but in hindsight I realized you have to keep an open mind and not try and talk too much and really listen, because then you can tell the ideal solution.
I think that's a trap we've all fallen into, where you want to talk about yourself, your product, your business, and you gush in, and it's a disaster. That's the beginning of the end. Yeah. Give us another example. What's another story that you've got?
Well, now let me tell you a little bit more cheeky one. So I was with this sales, woman, if you can say, a sales girl or saleswoman, and we're going on, and she was very, very smart, by the way. So we go for the sales call, and she was in a business which was slightly commoditized business. She was in the premium end. Her product was in the premium end, and they were about 15-20% pricier than others. And she used to get questions on price a lot. Why are you more expensive than everybody else? And she had a really intelligent way of overcoming this. So she would, once most of the things were solved and people would say, "Oh, yours is more expensive than others," she would say, "Sir, let me ask you a simple question. Why do you think we are 20% more than our competition?" And then any buyer would normally say, "I don't know." And then she'd say, No, sir, take a guess. Take the wildest guess. Why do you think we're 20% more?" And the person would say something like, "I don't know, maybe because, your product is more premium, or because your after-sales service is better, or because you have a strong reputation." And no matter what that person would say, this woman would say, "Absolutely, sir, you're absolutely right. And that's why we're 20%, and that's why you should do business with us." And believe it or not, 90 to 95% of the time, people would be happy because she was making them answer how to sell to them. So that's a really, that was some eye-opener for me.
Oh, that is brilliant, and I'm going to use that one for sure next time when I'm out selling, for sure.
And you absolutely should, because there's nothing wrong with it. I think every salesperson should be selling what is in best interest of their client or customer. If it helps them solve their pain, problem or need, then we should do everything that's ethically correct to help them make the right decision. After all, who wants to make a bad buying decision?
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this, right now going, "Well, this is all very well and good, but, my business is different. My product is different. My service is different. This doesn't apply to me." What have you got to say to those people?
I think anybody that thinks that my business is different or my product is different or this is fine for somebody else but not for me, it's a classic case of having a closed mind. You have to have an open mind to accept new things, to understand why others are getting ahead, and you're getting left behind. Let me give you a perfect example for this. Henry Ford. I'm sure you've heard of Henry Ford, correct? The father of the mass production automobile. But many people don't know that Henry Ford also gave something even more important to the world of business, and that was when he was trying to sell the automobile across America, which is huge. He obviously didn't have a network like others, so that's when he devised the dealer distributor network, which is he would sell the cars to his dealers in a local area, and then they would sell onward to the people of the locality. And I'm sure that a lot of people at that time said this dealer distributor network, well, that's fine for the auto industry, but it won't work for us. But the fact is, it does.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant example. Really, really strong.
You know, I can give you one more example. Somebody saw an ATM. The whole drive-through business that started, somebody saw somebody taking money out from an ATM and realized, hey, if people want to take the money conveniently, what if I could give them their food conveniently? And that's the genesis of the whole fast food drive-through industry. So you could really take something from any one segment and really apply those same principles to the other, and sales magic can help any business.
So Vikram, I mean, as a businesswoman myself, I know what it's like when, difficult things can get, when cash flow is tight, you've got bills to pay, salaries to pay, and sales just isn't working. And that's when it's all about your mental state, and you really start to get desperate, don't you?
Yes, sales is the cause and the solution to most business problems. Sales is the only department which is getting money in. Every other department is an expense. I mean, today if you go in the market, people are willing to do your payroll, people are willing to do your accounts, people are willing to do your production, but the one thing you can't outsource is sales. I mean, nobody wants to sell for you. Nobody wants to sell your product for you. You need to do your sales and marketing yourself. And that's why sales is so important. The place that people are often putting their attention is in all the things which are not so important, which are expense generating rather than revenue producing. So as I said, everybody is willing to do everything for you except sell your product. And that's where business owners need to focus, especially today we're in the startup age, where a lot of startups are there and they're very good technical people, but they're not very good sales people, or they're not very good at selling or knowing what to do about selling, and so they struggle in business, and that's really disheartening to see, and that's part of why I wrote the book, so that other people don't have to struggle the way I did in 2008.
I mean, definitely as a CEO, you get pulled into so many different departments, firefighting in HR and, marketing and all these different things. But that discipline that you highlight in the book, the need to be disciplined and very focused on a routine so that you're selling come rain, hail or shine, that really, hit home to me, that you really need to be constantly out there.
Yeah, and Emily, as we all know, unfortunately, and I can say that from experience, discipline is not one of the strongest qualities that most salespeople have. I think they're on the field so much that traditionally keeping track of salespeople has been the biggest problem. And I think that's where one uses the daily sales planner, which I've suggested. You can actually not just monitor yourself, but if you're a sales head or if you're a business owner, you could monitor your sales team and make sure that that thorough pipeline is there. Because otherwise, sales is more like a graph. With salespeople, they've got one good month and they're just cruising or relaxing the whole next month, and then suddenly there's no business, and then they again start working hard, and then either they get sacked or they're depressed. So it's better to be disciplined and focused and have a constant flow and pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel that this book is so important for anyone, people who may not even be in sales, in the sales team itself, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to sell something, whether
True.
it's an idea or a concept, whether it be externally or internally to our team. This book is a must for everyone.
And I can see from the condition of your book, you've been referring to it quite a bit, so that's good.
One of the big problems is that we all want to sell and we want people to buy our product, but at the end of the day, many of us have a fear about money. What's been your experience?
Oh, this point personally hits home with me, because when I saw how confident these salespeople were, the top salespeople were about talking about money, amounts, figures, it made me realize that's a shortcoming that I had myself. And a lot of us and I studied a lot on this, and I realized that a lot of us, especially in the Indian context, because from a young age, when we're small, we're not allowed to talk about money. It's a bad thing to ask how much somebody earns. It's, when people are talking about money, when adults are talking about money, kids are, told to go somewhere else. So money becomes a taboo subject. And in sales, it's all about the money. I mean, if you're giving your product away and you're not recovering the money, I think that's called free sampling. It's not called sales. Sales is about getting the money. And so money becomes such a difficult subject that most salespeople are fine talking about their product, but when it comes to talking about recoveries, credit periods, or money in general, they choke up. And that hampers a lot of sales. And I think that's such an important thing that everybody needs to get over.
I mean, there are so many entrepreneurs in India that are starting up and getting out there and wanting to hit the sales beat. But what are some of the common mistakes that you've seen people make over and over again that are, very common?
I can give a very real life example. We had this chef. He was very new. He was doing fantastically well. So we thought, if he's doing so well with limited training, he's just a new guy. If we train him, he'll do really well. So we trained him really well, and we did spent a little money and sent him on some courses and things. And he comes back and he starts selling less and less. People are not happy dealing with him. People who are coming to book banquets and functions are not happy dealing with him. And so we find out why by doing some listening, and we realize that earlier he used to listen a lot, and he now, with his newfound education, he's in fact correcting the customer. He'd correct people, oh, it's not, penne pasta doesn't go with this, you're wrong. And earlier he would sell what the customer wanted, and now he was telling the customer what should be done. People don't want to be sold to. People want to buy what they want. And if people want a particular sauce with a particular pasta, you give it to them. And this is one very common mistake. People get so involved in the technical that they lose out the big picture, that they're there to make the sale and make the customer happy. And you should know that, Emily. You should give your example, in fact.
Yes, well, I mean, I think sometimes in selling we're so eager to establish ourselves as the expert, that we know it all, that then we get into unconsciously a tussle with the client, so that they're trying to get up and we're trying to get one more up, and at the end of the day it just doesn't work because we end up losing the customer. We lose the sale. Yeah,
you might win the argument, but you lose the sale, and you have to decide, is your ego more important or is the sale more important?
Absolutely. So that's been a mistake that I have definitely fallen privy to. So Vikram, what do you think are the 3 top things that any salesperson should do when they're on a sales call? And what are the top 3 things that they should definitely not do on a sales call?
I think the top 3 things that they should do is first do a good diagnosis, that is ask good questions. The second thing that they should do is listen to the answers. Sometimes we just ask the questions so that the other person finishes and we don't listen. So listening is the second thing. And the third thing is being disciplined. Do your set number of sales calls, set number of appointments, get enough people, get enough of appointments, because if you do the right behaviors, the results will follow. People lose sales because they're trying to do not the right behaviors and just fling it, which doesn't happen. So these are the top 3 things that I would suggest. And mistakes, I would say the top 3 are, first is talking too much, because you're just you think selling is about talking, and you're just trying to talk and badger the customer into buying. That's the first mistake. The second mistake is not knowing enough about your product or service, because when the person is ready to buy, he wants to talk to somebody who's knowledgeable and believes in the product or service. So not knowing enough about your product or service doesn't exude that confidence when the time is right. And the third mistake, which is again a very important mistake, is not being confident about money, or not removing the fear of talking about money, which again hampers a lot of salespeople from closing the sale.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, that confidence about the product, because one of the things I really loved in your book was around how many people, they're so eager to sell that they're trying to always, increase the expectations of the person about the service that you're going to give. So you're always adding something else. We'll do this, we'll do that for you. You know, so heightening the expectations.
Correct.
Whereas a great salesperson, as you outline, is actually trying to decrease the fear
Correct.
in the buyer, decrease their anxiety about buying from you, and that is a very nuanced detail that I think makes all the difference.
True, I can see you've studied it well.
I have.
You know, Emily, I'm intrigued because I know you've been using Sales Magic a long time. I've never had the opportunity to ask you, which is your favorite technique in the book?
Well, I mean, there's so much gold in here actually, and we've touched on a lot of it. You know, things like the diagnosis was a game changer for me. But things like, the whole psychology and the dance that you do when you're sitting with a buyer as a seller. You know, the buyer is trying to get your product at the lowest possible price, and he knows you know.
Yeah.
You know about it, and he knows you know. And at the same time, you're trying to ask as many questions, trying to uncover, pick away to find out where are his pain points, where are his problems. So it's this constant sort of dance, and understanding that dance before you go in actually helps you prepare so that you can ask better questions, be more effective, and at the end of the day, close the deal, you know.
I think a lot of people get frustrated with that. When the dance starts, they kind of feel that it would be quick and easy, but no, it's a dance, and you need to be good at dancing with the buyer and handle him well.
I mean, other things that you touched on, things like just the confidence that you need to have, not only within yourself, the company, your product, confidence around money and things like that, but that confidence also comes from consistent preparation and like hard work preparation, things like really preparing your list of questions and having them framed in the right way so that they just roll off the tongue. It all becomes natural in a situation, and you really can develop a rapport, with someone else. So that's another key thing in the book, how to engage and build a connection so that the person likes you, that before you even start, questioning and selling, they already like you. They want to give you the business.
Yes.
So
because I think in any day and age, the customer has a choice of who to do business with, and given a choice of who to do business with, they always want to do it with people they like and have that rapport with. So you're right. I think that can make all the difference. Sometimes at the same price, if he can get somebody who is somebody who he favors because he likes them, then they're going to get the same.
Yeah, and of course all this is subconscious. But I've had so many people come try to sell to me, and you can see that it doesn't come natural to them. This rapport building is a little forced. It's a little unnatural.
True.
And it sets you off on the wrong foot straight away. So, but yeah, there's so much gold in here. It's really your right-hand manual when you're out selling, and it's a must for everyone.
Great.
So, I came across this copy by chance, many months ago, but where can people at home get their hands on this magic book? Because, it really will change their life and change their selling.
So it's available online on all the bookstores, and you can just Google Sales Magic.
So whether you're just starting out on your business or sales journey, or you've been doing this for 20 years, pick up your copy today. There's something in this for everyone. Vikram, kamat, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.